So let's talk about that. Okay, so today's agenda will be Docker networking, and we will see how containers can connect to each other, how they can communicate to each other. Networking is a very vast topic, but we are covering bridge network and the overlay network. Okay, so welcome to the OdinSchool, and we are going to talk about Docker networking. Okay, so now you understand that we from last 2 days we are talking about the Docker. Why Docker is why Docker is so important. In the first session we have discussed about Docker. We have seen images, we did the comparison with virtual machines, and importance of we have seen the importance of Docker. So Docker is very important because now the now the industries, they are choosing Docker for their production grade applications. Okay, so welcome to OdinSchool. OdinSchool is a technology upskilling platform. We help you to continuously acquire new skills. So stay skilled, stay ahead, and do not forget to like and subscribe our channel. This gives us the motivation to create such good videos for you. And these videos are so informative so that you definitely get the knowledge of the topics. Like today we are talking about Docker networking, and there are other topics are also available on this channel. My name is Raman. I'm a DevOps specialist with over 16 years of experience. I'm expertise in DevOps tools like Git, Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible, Puppet, Chef, etc., etc. I'm also familiar with the programming languages like Python, Java. I'm very much familiar with the cloud computing, AWS, and Azure. Let us see what will be the agenda of today. Today we are going to talk about the networking. It's not a virtual machine networking, it's a networking of Docker. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand what is the bridge network. You will be understand what is overlay network. So two these are not only two types. There are other types are also host network, and we have MAC VLAN network. Okay, and subtype of overlay network is ingress network. So, but because this session is for 1 hour, so we are going to discuss these two network types of Docker. All right, so before moving ahead, first of all, you should know what is networking. I hope most of you know what is networking. In normal, if I say, okay, this is little ink. Okay, I will select this, clear this. Okay. So, you know there is a concept which is called networking, and networking indicates that how a particular system, so say an example, you have virtual machine 1, you have virtual machine 2. Now you want to set up a network between them. What is the use of the networking? Networking is a concept where two machines can communicate to each other. Communication to each other means if you want to do a file sharing, if you want to open certain firewalls. So for example, if you are a client, if you this is say an example, your system, your laptop, where you have installed Oracle client, and you are going to connect to a server, a database server, which is in your data center, or maybe in the AWS cloud, or Azure cloud, or Google cloud, somewhere out, means remotely it is available, and you need to connect to this. So first of all, you need to have a network between them. Second thing is that the firewall is to be opened. So for example, if I say uh, to access the Oracle, you need to open a port number 1521. So 1521 port is to be open on the database server for this particular system or to the authorized system. So when this laptop or when this system is going to connect to this system, which is your server, this is your server and this is your client, when it is going to connect, it is not going to access everything. It is going to access the traffic which is running on 1521. So ultimately what I'm trying to do, I'm going to see what is running on 1521 and my database services are running on 1521. Similar way, when you are connecting to a web server, so say an example, you are going to access google.com. Okay, so when I'm trying to access this google.com from my system, okay, so now what google.com has done, it has opened the port 443 to anyone. Okay, it is to anybody, to anybody. Okay, so it means whosoever wants to connect to this at 443 port, they can access it. So let me just show you from my system. If I go to my command prompt, and I hope I have I have installed telnet. So if I say telnet google.com and on port 443, and you can see this blank screen. So what is the meaning of blank screen? Means you can communicate. It means it means that I'm able to I'm able to communicate on port 443 of Google. That is why whenever you are writing google.com from on your browser, it basically goes to the google.com server, and you may notice or you may not notice that that is HTTPS. So HTTPS is basically secured, and which is it's a secured layer which is running on port number 443. So it means there is a you can do a communication between your system and the google.com. Okay, so firewall is to be opened. Let me see, can I do a ping to google.com? Let us see, google.com. Okay, so you can see I'm able to ping to that server as well. So there is a connection between my system and google.com. It is not only my system. You can try this on your system as well. And you will see there will be some IP address replies coming up, right? So this IP address, it may not be the correct IP or it may be correct IP for google.com or actual IP, I mean to say. Okay, so ping command is running 443 port. I can access to google.com. It means there is not 100%, but some part of networking is in between my system and the google.com. Same way you can try with the yahoo.com, youtube.com, where you can easily access these websites because these public websites are available to everyone. Okay, so this is the another requirement which we need to have, and you can try with the pinks. You can try with the just a minute. Okay, so you can try with the ping as I have done. So you can run a ping command to to see whether you are on that network or not. Okay, so networking itself is a very vast topic. We are not going to discuss uh, the that networking, but we are going to discuss about the Docker networking. So that is our agenda, that we need to understand what is Docker networking. So let us let us talk about Docker networking. Docker networking allows you to establish network communication between two or more containers. I hope you are aware of what is container. If you are not, then please watch our lecture on Docker images and container. You can see the Docker installation part as well. So basically what we are doing here. So we are having our containers. So say an example, I have container C1. Let me change this color. Let me take this color. Okay, so say an example, I have container 1. And on this container 1, there is one web application is running. Okay, so let me write it here. So this is your container 1 where the web application is running. And there is another container which is C2 where database application is running, or database is running, not application, database. Now this web application wants to store the data in this database server. Okay, so this container web application wants to store the data into the database container. That is possible if there is a communication between C1 and C2 containers. And that is nothing but the Docker networking. Okay, so this is nothing but the Docker networking. So Docker networking allows you to establish the network communication between two or more containers. Okay, so it could be two, it could be three, it could be four, right? So, so you can have multiple containers, right? And these containers can communicate to each other through Docker networking. I think this will be clear to everyone. Okay. Now let us talk about uh, let's talk about some networking types. First is the bridge network. Okay. So what is bridge network? So this is a default network which is used for Docker networking. So bridge network uses a software bridge that allows the container connected to the same bridge network to communicate while providing isolation from containers which are not connected to the bridge network. So what it means? So this basically this definition I have taken it from the Docker official website. So what this means? It means that there are two containers. So we have, say an example, let me go back to my same example where I have C1 container, and that C1 container is having a web application running. Okay, I think I can use some dark color. That should be good. Okay, so I have C1 container, and this is where my web application is running. And I have another application which is C2 where my DB, my database is running. Okay. Now these two are on a network. And say an example, this is a bridge network. And bridge network is the default network for the containers. Okay, there are there are other network types are also available, like as I mentioned, host network or this overlay network, MAC VLAN network. Okay, so bridge network is the default. So if C1 and C2 they are running on a bridge network, say bridge 1, and there is another containers are running on say C3 and C4 on some other network. So these two containers can communicate to each other, but they cannot communicate to this C3 and C4 by default. So they maintain an isolation level. So that is what I'm trying to say here. So bridge network uses a software bridge that allows container connected to the same bridge network. So C1 and C2 on the same bridge network to communicate while providing isolation from the containers which are not connected to the bridge network. Okay, so which are not connected to the bridge network. So let us see this practically. Okay, so let me go to my da, 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 my mobile extreme. It's waiting here. Okay, I'm here on my mobile extreme, and let me take the Ubuntu machine. Okay, so this is Docker 02 is the host name, sudo su. I'm connecting with the root user. Let me see if I can maximize it. Let's do it. Maximize view. Full screen mode. That looks good. Okay, so now let me see, is there any container running? Docker ps command. Yes, there is one container running. Let me remove this container. To remove a container, you need to use a command docker rm -f because this is a running container, so I want to remove it forcefully. And if I say container name or container ID, so I'm removing this container. Okay, container is removed. If I say docker ps -a, now you can see that there is no container running. Okay, now if I want to see is there any network, docker network ls. So there is some default networks, which is a bridge network, host network, and name is also bridge. So this is the network ID. This is my host ID. This is network ID for my host uh, driver. These are the network drivers, and third is null. Okay, all are in the local scope, means for this machine scope only. So if I say docker network hyphen hyphen help, so you can see we have these certain options which we can use for Docker network. So if I say if I want to remove a network, I say docker network rm. Prune basically used to remove all unused networks. So if I say docker network and prune, so it will give a warning. Do you want to remove the networks which are not used, which is not used by any containers? So I'm saying yes, we are okay with that. Okay, so let us say docker network list now. Okay, docker network. Okay, so there was no unused network. Okay, now let us create a bridge network. Okay, so first we will create the network, and then we will basically what we will do after creating the network, we will put the containers on top of that network. So that is what I'm going to do. So to create the network, What do I do? I just say docker network and hyphen hyphen help. So you can see there is a command which is create. So docker create network, it basically creates the network. Okay, so I will use this command to create the network. Okay, so let me just clear the screen, and I'm going to create a network, bridge network. So the command is docker network create, right? And the which network you want to create. I want to create the bridge network minus T and the name of the bridge network. I want to create bridge 1. Okay, so it is giving an error. Response operation in is not permitted. Predefined. Okay, Docker create. Okay, so Docker network create minus T. Actually, it should uh, come before and bridge, and I'm creating the bridge 1 network. Okay, wonderful. So now that this is the network ID and this get created, now if I say docker network ls, and here you can see this is the bridge 1 network created. Okay, so bridge and the local scope is local, right? So bridge 1 network get created, which is absolutely great because we are going to set up the we want to set up our containers on top of this network. So let me create a container. If I say docker and run, if I want to create a container, minus IT, and if I give the name of the container, say container 1, and I want to run it on bridge 1 network. So I will use network and the name of the network, which is bridge 1. And what image you want to run? I want to run, uh, I want to run Ubuntu image. Okay, so Ubuntu image was not available on my system, so it is downloading from the Docker Hub. Okay, so if I say Docker inspect and container 1, okay, so here you will see that it is using the network bridge 1. Okay, so inspect command basically inspect about the container, what is happening over there. So if you want to troubleshoot something related to the container, you can use the inspect command. So it means my container 1 is running on the bridge 1. Now let me create one more container with the same command, and this time I'm going to use a container name as container 2 and same Ubuntu image I am using. So it means I have created one more container and its name is container 2, which is running on the same network, which is bridge 1. So if you say docker ps, now there are two containers running. One is container 1 and other is container 2. All right. So what we can do now? Let us see, is there any communication? So whenever you are creating a container, there is one IP address is assigned to it. So if I say IP address of my local system, okay, or the host machine. So here you can see there is a Docker 0, right? So this is the Docker 0 and there is a CIDR range for this network. Okay. So this is for my Docker containers. So Here there is a CIDR range defined which is 172.17.0.1. Okay. So if you see here, down here you can see there will be my containers. Yes. So one second, just let me check. So this is the master is this. Okay, so this is the no queue upstate because these are running on my on top of my on top of my Docker network. So there are you can see this is a bridge network ID. Okay, so it is basically running on top of that. Okay, so here also you can see master is this bridge network. Both are same. So my two containers are running on this bridge network, and this bridge network is created here, you can see, and it has CIDR range this 172.18.0.1. Let me do one thing. Let me create one more container, and that container is say an example without that bridge one network. Let us see what will happen. Okay, so let me create one more container. If I say docker run minus IT, and name of the container I will give container 3 and minus T, and the image name you can give any image. Let me create the Ubuntu image only. Okay, so let us run this. Okay, run minus IT name container D, this is fine. Now if I say docker ps, so this is container 3. Now if I see it's not running on bridge 1 network, right? Whereas container 2 and container 1, they are running on the bridge 1 network. So if I say uh, IP address again, if I say IP address, and now you can see Docker 0, and there will be one more container. So these two are running on the bridge 1 network, whereas this is running on the master is Docker 0. Docker 0 is nothing but this one, which has CIDR range this. So it means if I see the IP address of container 3, that will be different CIDR range, 172.17, and container 1 and container 2 should have the CIDR range this. So let us see that. So if you want to go inside container 1, so if I say docker execute minus IT, and I want to go into the container 1 and excuse me, and hyphen and bash. Okay, so now I'm inside the container 1. So these are very basic containers. So uh, we are having only the uh, what you say the base commands like IP address, if config. These commands won't run. We need to install it. Okay. The other way is to find this is to use the cat slash etc slash host file. So here you can see the IP address of this system. And you, as I mentioned earlier, that this is of this CIDR range. See 172.18.0.2 it is, right? Because container 1 is running on my bridge network, and my bridge network has the IP ranges for this CIDR range. I hope this is clear to everyone. Now, similar way, if I come out of this and if I say I want to see the container too, so it should have the similar CIDR range. And if I say cat slash etc, yes, so if I say slash etc slash host file name, and here you can see this is 172.18. So 18 is important because this is the CIDR range which is defined here. All right. So ultimately, this CIDR range is for my bridge network, the user-defined bridge network. Whereas if I go to my container 3 is running on Docker 0 network, and 0 is having the CIDR range 172.17.0.1. So let us verify this. So if I say, if I need to come out of this first, right? Well, now if I say go to container 3, and remember container 3 is not running on bridge 1, it is running on the Docker 0 network. Now if I say cat slash etc slash host, see the IP address 172.17.0.2, which is a different network as compared to bridge 1. If it is a different, can it communicate to container 1 or container 2 or not? So let us check that. First, let me show you whether container 1 and container 2 can communicate to each other or not. Before this networking, actually, there was other way to connect with the in the network, that is the link options we were using. But now that will be removed soon. So if I go and just show you that. Okay, so I need to come out of this. Okay, this is in the full screen mode. Okay, so if I go here and say Chrome, okay, and if I say Docker link command, okay, and if I say Docker link command, legacy this, and you can see there is a warning. Okay, so here you can see the link flag is legacy feature of the Docker. It may eventually be removed unless you absolutely need to continue using it. We recommend that you use the user-defined network to facilitate the communication between two instead of link. Okay, so uh, so we need to use this. Okay, so now if you that is what we have done. Okay, so that is what we have done, and uh, it is basically the setting up the communication between the network 1 and network. It will setting up the network connection between 1 and 2. Okay. All right. So that is what we have done. Now let us see whether container 1 and container 2. Guys, give me 1 second. Okay. So now I need to see that container 1 and container 2 can communicate to each other. The best way to check that whether ping command is running or not. Okay, so for that, let me go inside the Docker container 1. So if I say Docker execute, and we have seen the IP address. So this is the IP address of my container 3. This is the IP address of my container 2, and this is the IP address. So let me take this IP address and I'm going in. This is container 2 IP address. Let me go to container 1 and ping to this particular. Okay, so if I say docker execute -it and container 1, I'm going inside the container 1. Okay, and if I say uh, ping this. Okay, ping command is not found. Okay, so we will do apt update. Okay, now if I say I'm inside the container, apt install ping. Okay, so there is no ping. We need to use this command inet ping. Okay, so if I say apt install -y this. Okay, so now if I say ping, means I'm going to run the same command. And you can see I'm getting a response from container 2. It means there is a there is a networking set between container 1 and container 2. So same way, if I say if I go to container 2, if I say I want to go to container 2, and I need to say apt update, again I need to install that tool. And if I say apt install ping, apt install, and I need to install this utility -y. And if I say ping and the not this one, that address was for container 1, if you see the address is 172 this. Okay, and you can see there is a communication between container 1 and container 2, means they can ping to each other, right? Now if I say can I talk to the container 3 or not, that is in a different network. So let us try that. If I say ping and if I take the IP address uh, of container 3, that will be somewhere here. This is the IP address, not this one. Yeah, this is container 3 IP address. So let me try to ping to this IP address from container 2. So when I'm trying to ping, it cannot communicate to container 3 because it is in a different network. So that is what my statement was. My statement was that how two networks, two containers can communicate when they are on the same network, and these two are on the same network, which is bridge 1 network. Whereas container 3, so it will not communicate. Let me. Okay, so container 3 is on a different network, so there is an isolation. There is no communication between container 1 and container container 1 and container 3, or container 2 and container 3. So this is how the bridge network. So there is lot of things where we can create a web application and we can create a database, and web application takes the data from the database application. So this is uh, this is basically kind of a production grade application where most of the web application stores the data into some database server. So database server could be your Oracle, MySQL, or any other network, right? Any other database server, sorry, not network. All right, so ultimately we can open the port, we can set up a uh, web server, means web and database server application communication, that we will see in our sessions. So where I'm going to create one PHP application and which is going to connect to MySQL database. So that we will see in some other session, not today's session. Today's session is a basic understanding of bridge network. Okay, so this is all about the bridge network. Now let us talk about another network, which is overlay network. So bridge network basically is suitable for the containers which are running on a single system. But a it is not always a case where bridge network is good. Means bridge network is the only option. It's not only the case. If your if your containers are running on different worker nodes, so what is worker nodes? Means on different systems. If your containers are running on different worker nodes, then it means if your containers are running on different worker nodes, then it means it is on a Docker Swarm network. What is Docker Swarm? Docker Swarm is a cluster for the Docker containers. So say an example, if you want to spread your containers in a network, in a Docker network, then you need to create the Docker Swarm cluster. So Docker Swarm is an orchestration tool which is used to manage the containers. So if your containers which are running on different worker nodes, means different machines, and they are on a cluster, ultimately you want to set up a communication between container 1 and container 2 or container 3. For that, we need to use the overlay network. So guys, please do not forget to like and subscribe this channel. Okay, so it is to connect multiple Docker daemons. Why I am saying multiple Docker daemon? Because multiple containers are running on the multiple machines to communicate to each other. And this is for the Docker Swarm. So let us go back here. So if I say Docker node ls, okay, so this command when I run, it is saying this node is not a swarm manager. So it means I have not created any Docker cluster. So if I say uh, Docker swarm init, when I run this command, so basically I'm designated this machine where I'm running this command as a Docker manager. So here you can see Docker swarm initialized current node as a manager node. So let me just talk little bit about the Docker swarm. So here we are basically going to create a I will take some other color. Yes. So here we are going to take a cluster. In this cluster, we are having our manager node and the worker nodes. Say worker node 1, worker node 2. There are some containers, so managers also run as a worker node. Okay, but manager main responsibility is to manage the cluster. So here there are some containers are running, container 1, container 2, container 3. How these are running? These are running with a Docker service. Okay, so we are going to use Docker service. And now this containers maybe means when you run it, so it's a cluster. So containers uh, can be running on contain a manager node or worker node 2, but they are on a overlay network. You can create your own overlay network, or if you don't want to use the own overlay network, then you can use the default network which get created, which is an overlay network. Okay, in Docker Swarm by default overlay network get created. Okay, whereas if you are not using Docker Swarm, not using cluster, then bridge network is the default network. So here you can see container 1, container 2 and container 3. These are three containers, right? Container 1, 2 and 3. And these are running on overlay network. So let us see that how can we do with the help of this. So Docker Swarm init command when I run, so it is giving me one token. This is a command which basically I can use for worker nodes. So the nodes can join. So this is my CentOS machine. Okay, I did not logged in with the root user. So let me see sudo command. Okay, so this particular node is joined as worker node, whereas this is my master node. So if I run a command docker node ls now, so you can see there are two nodes. One is docker 01, which is nothing but my this CentOS machine. And second is my worker 0, docker 02, which is a leader node, which is a manager node. Okay, so docker 01 and docker 02. These two are my worker nodes, which is in the Docker Swarm cluster. Okay. Now let me create a container. So to create a container, you need to use the Docker service. And if I say Docker service help, so there are a lot of options. So I'm going to create a service. So if I say Docker service create and the name of the service if you want to give, excuse, excuse me. Okay. My service and uh, I want to run an image, say Nginx. Okay, so it will create a service. Now this service basically creates a container. Okay, so if I say Docker service ls, and actually it works on replica. So there is one container is running, and if I don't mention any replica, by default it is running for the one container. Okay, so here you can see it is running 1 out of 1. Now, if I say uh, Docker network ls, so here you can see there is a Docker Swarm related network get created, which is something like this. Okay, so let me just see IP, and you can see where this particular service is running. So you can run Docker uh, service ps command and name of your service, which is my service. It is running on Docker 02, and this is Docker 02. Okay, it is running over here on this master machine itself. Okay, so it can run anywhere, right? So it is not necessarily it is running on the on 02 always. It can run on 01 also, or any other worker node which is in your cluster. Okay, so if I say Docker node ls, so you can see there are two nodes, right? And if I see uh, IP address, let us see is there any other information. So here you can see this is the new entry, okay, which is saying the master is Docker GW bridge. Okay, now this is GW bridge and this is the CIDR range, means the container is now with the .19 address. Okay, so if I say uh, Docker network ls, so here you can see this is the bridge network for my container get created, right? If I say Docker inspect, first let us see the Docker uh, ps command. So this is the Nginx service which is running. So if I say Docker inspect and this container ID. Okay, so here you can see it is using a bridge network. Okay, it is using a bridge network inside your and we will see the uh, we'll see on the top here. Okay, so there is a lot of information if you want to debug your container, you can see here. So there is this is the image, this is the resolve configuration path, host name path. Okay, so it is running under this containers directory. So this is the location, basically path location. Okay, so ultimately and if I run this command docker swarm docker info. Okay, so here you can see it is this manager? Yes, there is one manager and two nodes in this, and the node address where it is running is this one. So this is my this system IP address. Okay, manager address is this, and it is using 2377. Okay, and you can see number of containers running. Total 4 containers are running on this system, 3 for the Ubuntu and 1 for the Nginx. Okay, so this is basically uh, it is basically telling that how my Docker swarm is active, and here you can see the network related information: bridge host, IP VLAN, MAC VLAN, null, and overlay. Okay, so these are the networks which are running on my system. So I hope you now get the idea that in Docker Swarm how the containers are running and how the um, how in a bridge network containers can communicate to each other, and in the overlay network how can we create the containers in a cluster, right? So this is all about the bridge and the overlay network. So let me summarize this again. So bridge network is a network on a local scope, whereas the overlay network, it is on the cluster level. So let me go back to our slide. So I hope you understand what is Docker networking, and you should be clear about what is bridge network and what is overlay network. That's it from this session. Please do not forget to like or subscribe our channel. So you will see some more interesting videos related to Docker and other topics related to the DevOps on this channel. So Stay tuned on this channel, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you very much for watching. See you. Bye for now.